My mom rewrote Dad's will to cut me out. That was 2 years ago. Today, she begged me not to testify. The air in the lawyer's office was stale, thick with the scent of old paper and unspoken resentments. I was Jason, the forgotten middle child, summoned back to Ohio for the reading of my late father's will. My mother, Eleanor, sat beside my Aunt Carol, their expressions a perfect blend of feigned grief and entitlement. The lawyer cleared his throat and read the final line, and thus, the entirety of my estate is left to my beloved wife, Eleanor, and her sister. Carol, silence. My siblings and I were left with nothing, not a dollar, not a keepsake. My quiet nature kicked in, and I just accepted it. Another Tuesday in the life of the family. Footnote. But as we left, a man I vaguely recognized, one of Dad's old accountants, slipped a small object into my hand. Your father wanted you to have this, he whispered. It was a USB drive, a key. Back in my dingy motel room, I plugged it in, the screen filled with spreadsheets, bank statements, and property deeds. I saw my father's signature, or what was supposed to be his signature, on documents transferring assets to offshore accounts in my mother's name. I saw shady real estate deals, with properties sold for $1 to shell companies owned by my aunt. It wasn't a will, it was a heist. I confronted my mother at the family home. I laid out the printouts on the polished dining room table. What is this? I asked. My voice barely a whisper. She didn't flinch, she just stirred her tea and said, Jason, some things are best left alone. Do you really want to bring shame upon this family? Think of your father's legacy. She twisted my loyalty into a weapon, gaslighting me until I felt like the one in the wrong for even asking. But something in me had finally snapped. I hired a lawyer. We contested the will. The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom was a blur of stern faces. My aunt and mother sat confidently, their lawyers whispering reassurances. My turn came. I took the stand, my hands shaking as I held up the USB drive. Your Honor, I began, I'd like to present the findings of a full forensic audit. The audit was a bombshell, detailing every forged signature, every illegal transfer. My mother's face went pale. My aunt gripped the table, her knuckles white. But I wasn't done. The prosecution calls its final witness, my lawyer announced. The courtroom doors opened, and in walked Mr. Abernathy, my father's personal attorney for over 30 years. He testified that my father's original will had been clear. His assets were to be divided equally among his wife and all his children. He confirmed that a new will had been filed just weeks before Dad's death. While he was heavily medicated and in a state of diminished capacity, Eleanor and Carol had been the only ones present. The judge's gavel fell like a thunderclap. The fraudulent will was overturned. All stolen assets were frozen, pending redistribution. Weeks later, the dust settled. My siblings and I had our inheritance restored, but I didn't want the money for myself. I used a significant portion to launch the Whitaker Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to financial literacy for underprivileged youth, something my dad was passionate about. The local news picked up the story, calling me the son who unearthed the truth. I finally stepped out of the shadows, not as the forgotten child, but as the one who honored his father's true legacy.